Hi guys, welcome to my channel, Sweet.t.reads. I'm Teresa, and I'm going to be talking about one of my books that I plan on reading this month in April and going over my prompts for the Disability Readathon. So the Disability Readathon is a readathon that's hosted every year. It is a month-long readathon in April, and it is hosted by Erin and Anna, and I will of course link all their information down below. I'm also going to be taking part in the Disability Readathon, Magical Readathon, and Realmathon. So I'm going to be taking place I'm getting tongue-tied. I'm going to be taking part in 3 readathons, 3 read-alongs this month. It is already like April 12th, so eek. I am behind on getting this video out, but I'm not behind on my books actually, which is really great. I've already read a few books, so I'm stoked about that. This video is mainly going to be focused on the Disability Readathon, and then I will have a separate video coming out that's more focused on the other 2 readathons and kind of going more in depth into my prompts. So I will be going into a separate video talking all about that. I'm going to apologize right now if, my voice. For any reason you have trouble understanding me or I am just like everywhere. I have been dealing with some pretty severe brain fog and it's making my words not work. I am trying to get like the thoughts from my head to come out my mouth and sound like good, and this doesn't always work, so I apologize for that. Those of you who've been on my channel before, watched previous videos, you may know that I myself am disabled. I have invisible illnesses, chronic illness, which is like an invisible disability. Basically what that means is when you look at me just by my physical appearance, you will not know that I am disabled. So that is what we consider an invisible disability. So this readathon is important to me because of that. I think it's really, really important for people who are within the disability community who have disabilities, whether it be physical, mental, visible, invisible, whether it's an illness or something else. I think it's important to share your story and to get the information out there. One, so that people can better understand what you're going through and can empathize, sympathize, whatever the correct word is for that. And 2, because I think it's important that we share our stories so that other people who are going through the same things can know that they're not alone, and maybe someone who is struggling with something can find help and maybe get a diagnosis because of someone else who talked about their story. Yeah, I think it's really cool, and I think it's awesome that this readathon is super focused on own voices. So basically I'm just gonna say in terms of books because that's what I'm doing, the author has to be a disabled person and anything, and again that includes like mental illness, it includes chronic illness, different things like that. So my brain fog is pretty bad, so I'm gonna apologize again for that. I am currently in bed propped up on my pillow because I've been dealing with some pretty severe health stuff. Again, why this readathon is so important to me is just because I think it's so important to get our voices out there, voices of disabled people, of people with illness, because I don't know statistics, but I do know that a lot of the population, at least here in America, is considered disabled in one way or another, or has a disability. I guess not say considered disabled, but has a disability or chronic illness or mental illness. And this world, at least again in America, is not really set up for non-able-bodied people. So, we got a long way to go. And anyways, let me actually stop my little rant. If you can't tell, like, I'm super passionate about this topic. It is something that obviously affects my whole being, but I do think it's a really important thing to talk about. So I am grateful to Erin and Anna for putting this readathon together to just kind of bring awareness and bring light and share different voices and be able to kind of support disabled creators. I think it's a really neat thing. So the different prompts that we have, I'm gonna kind of go through these and tell you what I am reading. I think actually I decided to read a book for each one of the prompts. You don't have to read. There's 4 categories, and you don't have to read a book. You can have like other things, like I said, because of the inclusivity thing, which is cool. But I decided to read a book, essay about 50-50. Yeah, really, because it's only 4. 2 are going to be audiobooks and 2 are going to be physical books. That's just kind of how I'm going to take in the media this month. So category 1, our prompts are, and you can basically choose any one of these from each, choose one from each category. We have play a tabletop game by a disabled creator or read its rule book. I actually want to look into this because I want to get in more into tabletop games and to be able to see if there's by disabled creators is going to be pretty cool. But that's not what I'm doing for this one. We also can read a poetry collection, read a book by a deaf or hard of hearing author, or read a banned book. And I have decided to read a book by a deaf/hard of hearing. Actually, the author is deaf. And that book is Show Me a Sign. And this is by Anne-Claire Lozette. And this book, so the author Anne is actually herself deaf, so of course own voices. And this book is, I don't know if it's a middle grade or if it's a YA. I'm not sure on that one. It's labeled as both things in Goodreads, so I don't know, but it's that kind of genre. It's a historical fiction about a deaf community on Martha's Vineyard, which is a community in America on the East Coast. I don't know my geology very well over there. I've never been over there. But Martha's Vineyard, it's an island. It was settled when the Pilgrims, whatever, came over. So this book, it takes place, let me see, what is the year that it takes place? 19th century, Martha's Vineyard. The author herself, as I said, that she is deaf. She's a librarian, and she really didn't see a lot of books that were representing her and deaf people. And so she decided to write this book to kind of bring awareness and kind of tell the story of the deaf community here in America. So this is actually a historical fiction. I don't know if I said that or not. And it's really cool. Like, I never knew about this, but in Own Voice's story, inspired by the true history of a thriving deaf community on Martha's Vineyard in the early 19th century. Mary Lambert has always felt safe and protected on her beloved island of Martha's Vineyard. Her great-grandfather was an early English settler and the first deaf islander. Now, over 100 years later, many people there, including Mary, are deaf, and nearly everyone can communicate in sign language. Mary has never felt isolated. She is proud of her lineage, but recent events have delivered winds of change. Mary's brother died, leaving her family shattered, tensions over land disputes mounting between English settlers and the Wampanoag people, which are the native tribe of the area. And a cunning young scientist has arrived, hoping to discover the origin of the island's prevalent deafness. His mechanical device, his manacle, is it manacle? I don't know. Drive to find answers soon renders Mary as a live specimen in a cruel experiment. Her struggle to save herself is at the core of this novel. And so it's like, how cool that there was this community. Maybe there still is. I don't know. After I'm like done reading this, I need to do some more research into this because I've never heard about this before. But yeah, of deaf people living and here, like the whole community, like signs, and everyone is super inclusive of the people. Like, that's such a cool thing. And I have already started this book. I'm about 25% through, and I'm really liking it so far. It's definitely really interesting because when you had Own Voices and the author is talking about how like she interacts with the world and how her deafness is really nothing, it doesn't really hinder her in any way. It just is what it is. And it's really cool to see, like, then talking about signing and just kind of talked about like the origin of American Sign Language, or ALS, and all these different things. It's super, super neat, and really am enjoying this book so far. So I'm excited to continue reading this. Show Me a Sign by Anne-Claire Lozette. Okay, so for category 2, we have the prompts to read a mystery thriller. Pick a book at random from our current recommendedly reads list. I will link again all the information below. Read a text centered on invisible disability, or read a text by a trans creator. And I'm choosing to read a text centered around invisible disability. And so I chose the book What Doesn't Kill You, A Life with Chronic Illness, Lessons from a Body in Revolt by Tessa Miller. This is, I mean, look at this cover. Isn't that just stunning? So this is a non-fiction book about this author who, I believe when she was in her 20s, she was diagnosed with Crohn's disease. And this book is kind of just her story of dealing with it. I guess it says today an astonishing 3 in 5 adults in the United States suffer from chronic disease. So, I mean, that's like it's never talked about. That's why this readathon I think is so important. And it's just about her life and how she's kind of dealt with, going from like a super active, ambitious 20-something-year-old. She was a writer, I guess, in New York City, and then she got sick, and it's dealing with, everything that comes along with that, emotionally, physically, dealing with doctors, dealing with people whether or not they believe you, getting a diagnosis, all that kind of stuff. It's her story. And while I personally do not have Crohn's disease, I think that my situation is probably going to be very similar to hers, as I believe a lot of people with chronic illness or invisible disabilities kind of have the same thing. It takes a lot to get diagnosed, and then having people believe you. It's just a whole mess of things, and I am quite excited to pick this one up. Again, like, look at how beautiful that cover is. I do have this also on hold from the library on an audiobook, so hopefully that'll come in so I can kind of listen and read at the same time. Right now, the way my brain is, it's actually difficult for me to physically read a book as far as retention. My ability to comprehend is not as great when it comes to physically reading. And so I'm working on retraining my brain, and by listening to audiobooks and reading along with the text at the same time, it seems to really, really help me. So hopefully the audiobook comes in. It's on hold. Hopefully it'll come in before the end of the month so I can get this read. If not, I will just do my best to read it physically. You know what? I totally, that was not the prompt that this book is for. Whoops. It is about an invisible disability. And I guess I could kind of double up on this prompt, but this actually is for a different prompt. So the one I'm actually reading for this, which is about an invisible disability, is A Muse of Fire, or For a Muse of Fire by Heidi Helig. And I'm sorry, the glare is like really bad. I'm trying to figure out how to do this. I'm filming at night because it's like the only time that I have available. My dog is not pestering me. So yeah, this I'm reading on audiobook as well. I did actually read this text already and I liked it. It was definitely interesting. So this book is about a girl who can see spirits, and she's also bipolar, which I believe that the author herself is bipolar. So this book has bipolar representation in it. They don't call it bipolar in the story. It's very much like an unknown ailment, an unknown madness is what they call it, because this takes place when, I don't know the time period, but it's when the French were colonizing certain Asian countries, and it kind of deals with the mixture of traditional Asia and colonizing French peoples. So it's about this girl who can she can see spirits of the recently departed, and she can bind them to her puppets and make them act for her. And so her family is this family of shadow players, and this is like a huge thing over in their country at this time. It's becoming super popular, and basically instead of using strings and sticks, she uses the spirits and commands the spirits to do the plays. Well, this is now forbidden. The old ways are forbidden because of the colonization. And you have you're dealing with a king, a colonizing tyrant, and a rebellious leader, a rebellion leader, that are all trying to fight for this country. And it's kind of crazy. You got all this stuff going on, and she gets wrapped up with, her and her family wrapped up with a smuggler. And again, like, they can't show or tell. She's very much told, don't show, don't tell, because her crimes are punishable, or not her crimes. Her actions of being able to basically be a necromancer are punishable, and really not cool in this current society. So they have to kind of hide it, but it's kind of their ticket to this new country or new place where there's rumored to be a pool that is able to cure madness, and that's what they consider her illness. In this book, they call it madness, or malaise, I think is what they call it. And so it's basically this girl and her family's journey. You kind of get wrapped up in the rebellion and the war, but she's also trying to deal with her own personal illness, the bipolar, and really figure it out. And, you know, is she mad? Is she not? Like, all this stuff of kind of dealing with it. And I know the author had said that this was kind of her way of, this character experiencing this journey is in a way like herself experiencing her journey with bipolarism. I really liked it. I gave it about a 3.5 star. It was pretty good. First book in a series, so I'm excited to continue reading, as I think there's going to be a lot more stuff happening in the later books. This book seemed to be very much setting up the story. But it says you have a journey that weaves in magic, simmering romance, and the deep bonds of family with the high stakes of an epic adventure. I think if you are interested in Asian mythology, or it's not really Asian mythology, it's more just like Asian fantasy, Asian inspired fantasy, bipolar representation. It does in a way remind me a little bit of An Ember in the Ashes. So if you like that book, you might like this one. Category 3, we have read a book by an autistic author, read a text about gaming accessibility, read a middle grade, or read a book with your favorite color on the cover. And for category 3, I decided to read a middle grade. So that would be Get a Grip, Vivi Cohen. And this is by Sarah Caput. And this author has autism, and so does the main character. And so I guess I'm killing two birds with one stone here, reading a middle grade and reading a book by a autistic author. Vivi Cohen is determined. She's had enough of playing catch in the park. She's ready to pitch for a real baseball team. But Vivi's mom is worried about her being the only girl on the team and the only autistic kid. She wants Vivi to forget about pitching, but Vivi won't give up. And I love this because I am a huge baseball fan. I grew up playing softball, and my family, we are a very, very large baseball heavy family. So I'm like super excited to read a baseball novel. And it's spring, like ball season's coming up. I love it. When her social skills teacher makes her write a letter to someone, Vivi knows exactly whom to choose. Her hero, Major League pitcher VJ Capello. Then two amazing things happen. A coach sees Vivi's knuckleball and invites her to join his team, and VJ starts writing back. Now Vivi is a full-fledged pitcher with the catcher as a new best friend and a steady stream of advice from VJ. But when an accident puts her back on the bench, Vivi has to fight to stay on the team. In this perfectly pitched novel and letters, Vivi makes her dreams come true and finds a whole team, from friends and family to a big league hero, to cheer her on. Does that not just sound super cute? I'm just like super excited. And yeah, it is told in letter. It's written in letter format, so I really like books that are like that. So I'm very excited to get to this one, as it just sounds so cute. Category 4, which actually is what I'm reading this book for, is read a romance, read a book by an Asian author, watch a video about disfigurement, or read a text outside if safe or by a window. And so I'm choosing to read this book, and I'm going to be reading this outside if the weather permits. Though craziest thing happened, we had like a 74-degree day here a couple days ago, which was like the highest it's been all year. I don't know if it's a record for April. I live in Portland, Oregon, and we don't get warm weather necessarily in April. But then 2 days ago, it snowed. I know this is like probably like not even that big a deal to like most people. You're like, so what? It still in April. But you gotta understand where I live. The last time it had snowed in April was April 1st of 1930 something. So yeah, it was like April like 9th or 10th, and it snowed. It's like that has literally not happened in not even my grandmother's lifetime. So craziness. So I don't know if we're reading this outside or not, depends on what the weather does, but I'll definitely be reading it by a window. Hopefully I have the window open, get some fresh air. And look, it's like a springtime looking book too, so like perfect reading in spring. And then we got some bonus challenges, which one is to read the group book, which is Disability Visibility, edited by Alice Wong. This is a first-person stories from 21st century. It's a collection of essays written by disabled people. It came out in 2020 and it's been making the rounds in the disabled community. I've heard really amazing things about this book. So I'm excited to be able to read it along with the group for the group book. And we also have these are bonus challenges. Make a video about Disability Readathon, that's what I'm doing right here, and use Disability Readathon, hashtag Disability Readathon. Join a reading sprint on Twitter, tweet your favorite text from this readathon, or post your TBR on Instagram. And I'm probably going to do all of these things because why not? That is my TBR for the Disability Readathon, and a couple other books that I'm planning on reading in April is I've actually already read Gemini, so that this is like a placeholder. If I get to Obsidio, I will. But Gemini, not Gemini. Gemini was a book I read actually at the beginning of the month, and that is for one of the other readathons. And then hopefully I'll get to Obsidio as well because I am loving this series so much. Another book I'm reading for another readathon is Dead Voices by Catherine Arden. And another one I'm going to be reading this month is Life at the Zoo, Behind the Scenes with the Animal Doctor, and this is by Philip T. Robinson. So this is a nonfiction book. I do have a couple other ones, I think, but they're all like audiobooks, and I'll get into them in the other videos. So hopefully you guys enjoy this video. Give it a like, subscribe, do all the things that you do. Join in with the Disability Readathon if you haven't already. If nothing else, just pick up a text by a disabled author. If you want to join in on the group book, I believe the live show is on the 24th or the 25th of this month, so there's still time to read this book. And join us, or join, yeah, because I'll be there. So join us with the live show, and all of that. You can find all my social media handles down below, like always. And I will hopefully see you very soon in my next video. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye bye.